Zoro is a character who's so bad with directions, he can get lost even on a straight path. For example, in Ennis' lobby, when Nami tells him to follow the stairs, and somehow he still manages to get confused and lose his way. So today, we're looking at every time Zoro got lost in One Piece, from tiny mistakes to completely disappearing acts. Let's get started. At number 1 is Zoro gets lost before the adventure even really begins. So here's what happened. After Luffy saves him from the Marines, Zoro officially becomes his vice captain. Cool, right? But then disaster. Both Luffy and Zoro have zero navigation skills. Like, none. They just get on a boat and hope for the best, but they end up drifting endlessly like two coconuts in the ocean. Before all that, Zoro actually went looking for Mihawk, the world's strongest swordsman. But instead of finding Mihawk, he got so lost he couldn't even find his way home. So he started hunting pirates and just rolled with it. He gets lost and it turns into a new career path. At number 2 is Zoro gets lost in a dinosaur jungle. On Little Garden, the crew stops to wait for the log pose. While they're there, Zoro and Sanji start a hunting contest. Who can bring back the biggest catch? Zoro goes deep into the jungle and surprise, he gets lost. His only landmark is a tree with vines on it. He even walks in circles and says, "This tree looks familiar." Yeah, Zoro, because you've passed it 3 times. But before he can find his way back, Mr. 3 from Baroque Works shows up and kidnaps him. So technically, Zoro didn't find the ship, he got found. At number 3 is Zoro turns training into a survival challenge. While sailing the Grand Line, Nami gets seriously sick, and the crew heads to Drum Island to find a doctor. The place is freezing cold and not exactly pirate-friendly. Luffy and the others go looking for help, but Zoro, he stays back to guard the ship and decides it's the perfect time for a workout. How does he train? By swimming in an ice-cold river. Yes, really. No warm-ups, no gear, just straight into the freezing water. Then, shocker, he gets lost in the snowy forest. And just to top it off, an avalanche buries him. Zoro, I was just doing cardio. Nature. Nah, you're doing survival now. At number 4 is Zoro pulls a classic Zoro move, getting lost out of the city while everyone's looking inside it. During the Alabasta arc, the crew learns that Crocodile plans to blow up the city of Alubarna with a huge cannon. So, with Vivi leading the way, everyone splits up to search the nearby buildings. The goal is simple. Find the cannon before it's too late. Then, Usopp spots the cannon in the clock tower and fires a flare to call everyone back. The crew? Nearby, ready, focused, and Zoro. He somehow ends up outside the city, not one street away, not in the wrong building, completely out of Alubarna. How? Even the One Piece world doesn't know. At number 5 is Zoro returns to the city and immediately gets lost again. After spotting Usopp's flare in the sky, Zoro rushes back into Alubarna to regroup with the crew, but instead of heading to the town square, he ends up wandering the wrong streets. While he's lost, a group of Marines spots him, but instead of fighting, they just stare at him in confusion. They don't even try to arrest him. They're more annoyed than anything. They straight up ask, "Why are you so far from the battle?" Then they point him in the right direction. "Go north." Zoro nods, still confused, and follows their directions, hoping this time he won't walk in circles again. And Zoro follows directions, just completely wrong. After getting told by the Marines to go north, Zoro actually returns to the city square before the rest of the crew. So far, so good. But then, he shows up on top of a building, looking down at everyone like he owns the place. Turns out, Zoro thought go north meant climb up, not head north on a map, just go vertically. While Vivi, Usopp, Sanji, and Nami are discussing how to reach the cannon, Zoro casually shouts from the roof like, "Hey, I made it!" It's one of those moments that makes you wonder if he's just bad with directions, or if he's just built different. Next is Zoro gets lost in the sky, literally. On Sky Island, the crew splits into 2 groups to explore. Zoro joins Luffy, Robin, and Chopper to head toward the ancient ruins. The plan is simple, stick together, but that doesn't last long. A giant snake attacks and chaos breaks out. Everyone runs in different directions, and Zoro, he's gone within seconds. Robin somehow reaches the ruins, but Zoro ends up anywhere but there. And honestly, by this point, no one's even surprised. Even in the sky with a team right next to him, Zoro finds his own path. Not the right one, just his own. And Zoro goes in a full circle and still doesn't notice. After getting separated from his team on Sky Island, Zoro keeps walking until he finds the exact same place he started from. But instead of realizing that, he just stands there, confused, like the scenery reset itself. Then, a giant bird starts laughing at him. Zoro gets annoyed, they argue, and next thing you know, the bird steals his pack and him too. It carries Zoro across the sky and finally drops him as bait for the massive snake that's still roaming around. Somehow, he ends up near where he's supposed to be. And number 9 is Zoro gets lost inside a marine base. In the G8 arc, the crew crash lands into a heavily guarded marine fortress. Everyone tries to stay hidden or blend in. Zoro, he just starts walking through the halls like it's his house, casually looking for familiar faces. No disguise, no plan, just Zoro. Then Nami spots him, quickly grabs his swords and tells him to hide. And what does Zoro do next? He gets arrested. Not for fighting, not for causing trouble, just for being Zoro, wandering where he shouldn't be. And now Zoro shows why he should never be in charge of directions. At the end of the G8 arc, after the crew gets Zoro out of prison, they all rush to escape the collapsing marine base. Luffy, Zoro, Usopp, and Sanji sprint toward their ship, but Usopp warns everyone, if Zoro leads, we'll get lost. Of course, that's exactly what happens. Zoro takes the lead, and somehow they get completely lost inside the base ruins. They wander through corridors and traps, confused but still moving forward. Funny thing, because they're so lost, the Marines accidentally fall into their own trap trying to catch them. So, even with Zoro's terrible sense of direction, luck is still on their side. Sometimes getting lost is the best escape plan. At number 11 is Zoro gets lost on a straight path. Yeah, you heard that right. During the Davy back fight with the Foxy Pirates, the Straw Hats play a game of red light, green light. The rules are simple. Run when it's green, stop when it's red, and just follow the straight path. But guess what? Zoro, the master swordsman, turns the wrong way. While everyone runs forward, he somehow takes a turn that doesn't even exist and ends up at a dead end. The rest of the crew is like, how did he even manage that? It's one of the funniest moments showing just how bad Zoro's sense of direction really is. Even on a straight road, Zoro finds a way to get lost. Classic Zoro. Number 12 is in Water 7. Zoro ends up stuck, upside down in a chimney. During the fight with CP9 at the mayor's house, Zoro and Luffy get blasted away. The crew has no idea where they went. Later, we find out Luffy is jammed between two buildings. But Zoro, he's literally stuck headfirst in a chimney, legs sticking out into the storm. It's so bad that Chopper sees his legs and thinks it's a sea anemone. Only when he gets closer, he realizes, wait, that's Zoro. Even when he's not lost, Zoro somehow ends up in the weirdest places. A perfect example of how wild One Piece can be, and how unlucky Zoro really is. Next is, after the intense battle at Eni's lobby, the Straw Hats were resting in Water 7. Zoro was alone, thinking about his broken sword, Yubashiri, when he spotted a marine ship approaching from a distance. Without wasting a second, he ran off to warn the crew. But there's just one problem. It's Zoro. He runs around the city trying to reach the galley law building, but ends up at the same shoreline again, and again, and again. 3 or 4 times, he's running full speed, in circles. Eventually, some local villagers see what's going on and guide him to the right place. Even during serious moments, Zoro's sense of direction is a complete joke. And that's exactly why fans love him. At number 14 is Zoro goes shopping and ends up in a dead end. After dealing with Vice Admiral Garp, the Straw Hats finally get some rest in Water 7. With just a few days left before they set sail, the crew decides to go shopping for food, furniture, and supplies. Everyone splits up and explores the markets. Luffy's having fun, Nami's bargaining, Sanji's probably chasing girls, and Zoro, he somehow walks straight into an alley with nothing there, not a single shop, just a wall. While the others enjoy the trip, Zoro's stuck wondering where the heck he is. It's part of a short filler arc, but still, it perfectly shows Zoro's legendary lack of direction. In number 15, Zoro ends up chilling, literally, on an iceberg. Right before the Thriller Bark arc, there's a fun filler where some bounty hunters steal the Straw Hats' Jolly Roger. To get it back, the crew sails into a trap full of giant icebergs. Zoro, being Zoro, jumps out and slices the ice to clear a path for the Thousand Sunny. So far, so good. But instead of getting back on the ship, he just keeps walking across the ice. No plan, no direction, just vibes. Then, boom. Franky fires the coup to burst, the ship flies off, and Zoro's left completely alone in the middle of the frozen sea, stranded, on foot. Again, only Zoro could turn iceberg cutting into a solo mission. Next, Zoro thinks, this time, I won't get lost. The crew arrives at the Sabaody archipelago, a place with 50 groves, each clearly numbered. Zoro figures, easy, just remember the number we landed at. He even asks Sanji and Usopp if he can go for a walk. They agree, thinking, it's numbered, he can't mess this up. Spoiler, he messes it up. Zoro sees a big bubble blocking part of the sign. He thinks it says Grove 1, but it's actually Grove 41. He walks off in the wrong direction, completely confident. In the end, the crew does go to Grove 1 to save Cammy, so Zoro was accidentally right, kind of. But still, only Zoro could get lost in a place where everything is numbered. At number 17, Zoro gets lost inside a castle. After being blasted away by Kuma at Sabaody, Zoro lands on Kuragana Island badly injured. Perona, the ghost girl, takes care of him and saves his life. When he finally wakes up, Zoro has one thing on his mind. Where are my swords? Perona calmly tells him exactly where they are. But Zoro being Zoro, he spends over 2 hours running up and down the castle, completely lost. He checks every room, every hall, even the same places more than once. It gets so ridiculous, Perona starts crying. Not out of fear, but because it's just so sad to watch. Even in a small castle with clear directions, Zoro still manages to turn it into a maze. And after recovering in the castle on Kuragana Island, Zoro decides it's time to leave and head back to Sabaody. He walks into the forest, determined to find a way off the island, but hours pass and he never shows up. Turns out, Zoro was running in circles the entire time through the same trees, the same paths, until he finally ends up back at the castle. But the best part, he doesn't even recognize it. He stands there like, what is this place? Meanwhile, Perona had been flying above, trying to keep track of him, and even she lost him in the woods. Only Zoro could make getting lost look like a full workout. In number 19 is Zoro picks the worst place to take a nap. After the 2-year time skip, the Straw Hats start returning to Sabaody. Shockingly, Zoro arrives first, thanks to Perona. With no one around and nothing to do, he decides to go fishing. A fisherman offers to get him a boat, but Zoro doesn't wait. He just jumps onto the first boat he sees, lies down and falls asleep. The problem is, it's not a fishing boat. It belongs to a pirate crew heading straight for the New World. Minutes later, the boat resurfaces sliced clean in half, and Zoro, totally calm, blames them for not telling him it was the wrong ship. Only Zoro could turn boredom into accidental destruction. On number 20 is Zoro's running from poisonous gas and still gets lost. On Punk Hazard, Caesar Clown releases a toxic gas that kills anything it touches. Right after defeating Monet, Zoro grabs Marine Captain Tashigi and runs to escape. Simple plan, just follow the others and don't die. But it's Zoro. He makes turn after wrong turn, going through halls and doors that lead nowhere. Tashigi's yelling the whole time, "You're going the wrong way." Somehow, despite all the confusion, they end up ahead of everyone else, the Straw Hats and the Marines. Lost the entire way, but still in front. That's Zoro logic. Even deadly gas can't stop his legendary lack of direction or his strange luck. At number 21, after the crew arrives in Dressrosa, a tiny scout named Wicca steals Zoro's sword and tells him about an attack on the Sunny. She gives clear directions to the flower field, but he instantly takes the wrong path, climbs the wrong stairs, and goes the opposite way. Even in a war zone, Zoro proves one thing: his sense of direction is still terrible. At number 22, Zoro's cutting trees on Zovu, showing off his strength and skill slicing logs into perfect planks. But after a while, he looks around and realizes no one's watching, thinks the others left him behind. That's when Law shows up and says, "You're the one who wandered off." Turns out, Zoro got lost in the forest again even while helping rebuild. Only Zoro could get lost while standing still and showing off. In number 23, Zoro goes on a boat ride and misses everything. While heading to Odin Castle, he fights off a tiger and wins. But instead of rejoining the crew, he drifts off on a calm boat ride through Wano. While Luffy's battling Kaido and chaos unfolds, Zoro's just floating around, completely unaware. He only learns about the war later from the newspaper. Classic Zoro misses the whole battle because he took the scenic route. Next, number 24. Zoro's looking for Kaido during the Onigashima raid and somehow ends up partying. He gets separated from Luffy, fights through the crowd, then randomly joins Kaido's men for food and drinks. He even asks, "Where's Kaido staying tonight?" And they clearly tell him. But Zoro still gets lost. He walks in circles and ends up right back at the same table. Only Zoro could get lost inside enemy territory and turn it into a dinner break. And finally, at number 25, Zoro gets lost and decides to fix it his way. During the Onigashima raid, he and Luffy are charging through Kaido's men. Then suddenly, they hit a wall, literally. They're lost again, thanks to Zoro. But instead of turning back, Zoro says, "I'll make my own path," and slices the wall down. Behind it, more chaos, more enemies, and somehow, Zoro gets lost all over again. Only Zoro can create his own shortcut and still miss the destination. If you enjoyed watching Zoro get lost 25 times, don't forget to like and subscribe for more fun One Piece moments. And if you want to see what is every character first bounty, click this video right here.